Dr. Nandipa's decision to date a convicted rapist and murderer, Thabo Bester, has made people question the psyche of individuals who fall in love with criminals. She risked all to end up being arrested in Tanzania. What went wrong with her inner person? Well, President of the Pan-African Psychology Union, Professor Saths Cooper, joins us to unpack just this. Professor, good morning and thank you very much for your time. You know, the story of Thabo Bester's prison escape has shocked many. But that aspect of a medical doctor with a thriving practice being his lover and possible accomplice has baffled many and opened that conversation around individuals who date convicts. What have studies shown about these individuals who would pursue such relationships?
Well, the studies are not that clear. However, what we do know is, and going by the conduct of both of them, they seem to be two peas in the same pod. They have similar traits. There's a clear disregard of the law. There's the ability to be deceitful. There's the disregard for others and the rights of others. And there's an extreme self-centeredness in their behavior. So there are many personality traits associated with her from what one can gather online and elsewhere in terms of the kinds of things she's done. She, from also, there seems to have been some history where they were dating prior to his imprisonment. And she did some terrible things like getting 3 bodies out of a morgue. Now, nobody would do that if they weren't deeply insensitive, have serious disregard for the rights of others. And very importantly, there's traits that she shows which are worrying for a medical practitioner. Lack of compassion, even for a dead body, is critical. And I think that we should be looking at, given this case and probably a few other cases in recent times, whether the selection of medical doctors is what it should be, because we can have sociopathic individuals going into the medical caring profession, which we should not have. And our medical schools don't screen for personality and other disorders when they take people into medical school. So it's a gap that needs to be filled.
No, it's certainly a very interesting point you raised there, but also the one around the personality traits. You've confined it to deceitfulness, disregard for the law, somebody who's self-centered. But I read another opinion piece where they seem to sort of give these type of individuals a free pass and talk about a great level of emotional vulnerability or need for validation that has them drawn to a prisoner who would probably have enough time to validate them and give them the attention that they so want.
Well, look, we don't know about the latter because she would have had prison visits. So in those prison visits, it's unlikely that some of this emerged. But I suspect that she had deep problems before she became a medical doctor. I think there's a lot about her that is sort of murky, and I think that she has clear signs of sociopathic antisocial. And when one says antisocial, one does not mean you're not sociable or personable. It means you're anti-society and society's norms. And you're willing to cut corners and do certain things which otherwise you ought not to do. For a medical practitioner, you take an oath of office. So clearly she's at some point disregarded that. She also did not renew her medical license a few years ago and practiced as if she were registered. And that shows a problem, in my view, about her. Yes, she may be vulnerable, but I think there is a degree of manipulating others to put her into a vulnerable position. She does not have the ability to really show the kind of caring. Otherwise, she would not have upped and left her kids in the way she did, for instance. So all those factors, I think, rather than looking at the the innocent, naive, vulnerable, attractive young female, one needs to look at the sociopathic background that she would have come from. And I suspect that they were, as I said right at the beginning, two peas in the same pot. They hit it off, they feed into each other, and to what extent she did not manipulate Bester is also something that needs to be considered. Yes, of course, he is a psychopathic individual, appearing very charming, and that's how he did some of the things he did, and that's why he was found guilty and sentenced to a very long term of imprisonment. But for her, there may be some of those latent traits that found expression when she reconnected with this fellow. And who fed into whom is going to be a right royal saga for us to look at when the trial is on.
What was your interpretation of the video that surfaced of Dr. Nandipa being cornered by two gentlemen? It seems in just that video alone, they were looking for her to make some sort of commitment to pay an outstanding amount of money in the range of around 700,000. But she seemed unmoved, not intimidated by having a bunch of men looking for her to concede that, in fact, she does owe them this money. She just proceeded to cut her piece of pizza. Apologies, her pizza, or it was a salad that she was eating there, but really was unmoved. What was your interpretation of that particular video, which had a lot of people talking?
That's the kind of personality I'm talking about. She has a certain vulnerability, a feminine side to her, but total disregard for her own complicity and a lack of acknowledgement of doing things that go against the grain, the ordinary mores, the norms that one would expect, particularly a professional of this kind, where you actually take an oath. You know, lawyers, medical doctors, a few others actually take oaths of office, if you like. And it's about doing no harm to others in your care. And she, in my view, lacks all of that. She lacks empathy. She lacks the ability to seriously love. Yes, show, sort of sexual and other love, but I don't think that she's capable of ordinary feelings that the majority of us have about each other, about our concerns. You know, if you are feeling low today, she would just just acknowledge that in a very short shrift manner, not care too much. And when confronted by these two guys, totally unfazed, because she has psychopathic tendencies that tend to be masked because she looks like a vulnerable person, and her femininity and her attractiveness masks that. Murderers, rapists, and serious criminals can present as vulnerable people, can present as the girl next door, the boy next door kind of image. But for ordinary people, they're unable to discern that. All of these things that I have seen leave me with little doubt, going only on what I've seen, that she has serious, deep-rooted characterological problems that probably arose earlier than when she became a medical practitioner. Her medical practitioner was not a license to heal, it was a license to something else. And that allowed her the ability to pass muster for so long. Her attractiveness and femininity added to that aura, and that's why she got away with it. Including being able to, having the chutzpah to sign off 3 bodies from a morgue. and that's what's reported, you have to have a certain degree of callousness to do that.
But then if for a second we were to broaden the conversation and talk about individuals that are completely different to Dr. Nandipa, but those that do enter into relationships with prisoners, what would be the issues there? Or are there no issues? Because some are still saying this is some sort of need for validation. It speaks to a need for validation and attention, just a very vulnerable human being. Can that actually be confirmed?
No, I don't see that. I see the sociopathy clearly. There are psychopathic tendencies that bounce off what Thabo Bester clearly represents. And the need for affirmation and adulation is one trait that underpins what I'm saying. So rather than it being a vulnerability that was taken advantage of, why would she go to this guy after this period of time? They hooked up again. We don't know the reasons. And who bounced off against whom in terms of their planning. It's going to be, it will emerge from the trial, but I don't think we're going to see the real Thabo Bester. He's going to clam up. I don't think you're going to see the real Nandipa. She's also going to clam up because they are going to feel the whole world has wronged them by doing these things rather than come clean on this. I don't think she has that capacity to show remorse, to show guilt or any empathy and care for other people's concerns and their rights.